Hi, folks. Linda from Curtin Creative Gallery here again to read some more of The Spending of a Life's Breath by Amanda Grace Windward. We got through chapter 1, which gave 2 events that set her life path. One, which was so unpleasant, a wall was put up blocking the memory of it. As we go on to chapter 2, titled Life's Path. As life continues, it gives way to many more events and people that contribute to the shape of a person's life path. Good and bad people, and even events with twists and turns. People like my Uncle Fred. It seems like all families have an Uncle Fred or someone like my Uncle Fred. He was my father's sister's husband. I remember when I was just 9 years old, my Uncle Fred used to make me want to run and hide. This aunt and uncle didn't have any children of their own, and my sisters and I looked forward to my aunt bringing us Christmas presents each year, because each year we would all get new comb, brush, and mirror sets for each of us. And we always looked forward to receiving them. One year it'd be blue, next year it'd be pink, one year it'd be flowers on it. My aunt had such a beautiful singing voice, and Uncle Fred was a great piano player. I loved my aunt dearly, but we all learned quickly to avoid being alone with my Uncle Fred. When I was just a baby, I remember him lifting me up and hurting me with his hand under my little dress, and so I cried to be put down. My aunt was standing right there talking to my mother, and I cried out, unable to communicate the problem. But my mother swiftly took me from Uncle Fred's arms. I learned to squirm away from Uncle Fred very young. When I was older, one day, I hid upstairs in my parents' room watching their little TV, waiting for Uncle Fred to leave. But the bathroom was upstairs, across from my parents' room, and so he was able to come upstairs, where he found me. Suddenly he was behind me, wrapping his arms around me in a friendly Uncle Fred kind of way, then a hug while he talked, and he was first rubbing my shoulders and then slid his hands down my shirt, rubbing my then very flat 9-year-old chest. I didn't know why he did that, but it made me very uncomfortable. So I squirmed away and tried even harder to avoid being alone with him from then on. Years later, comparing notes with some of my older sisters, I found I was the lucky one when it came to Uncle Fred's antics. I also found out he was not a nice man in other ways, too. But later in life, some of my older siblings were able to get a little even with him, I guess. Like when my brother-in-laws and some of his friends pretended and dressed up smart dress suits and pretended to be mafia members when they met up with him at a local bar, and they warned him to leave us girls and my parents alone. They said that my father was a friend of the mafia, and so he had better leave their friend Charles and Roberta Kelly and the family alone, or else. Uncle Fred came down after that and then died young of cancer. I can honestly say I don't think many of us missed him much. I was about 12 years old, 5'7" and 125 pounds, when suddenly, after all those years, the nightmares begin hitting me strong. Night after night, they would haunt me, dreams, sending me trembling and shivering and shaking. It was just after getting my friend, as we called our menstruation period back then. There were many disadvantages of being the fourth daughter of a family of 8 girls, and one was that you were often accidentally skipped over when it came to receiving important information. Like that talk mothers give to their daughters to prepare her for the wonderful world of womanhood. Let's just say they didn't close the gate till the horse escaped from the barn on this life lesson. Of course, my time came when the house was full of visiting relatives. I was using the tiny pantry bathroom at the top of the cellar stairs. Down cellar, my father had his workshop and a room full of canaries and finches he was breeding. He also always had wild animals he was nursing back to health, brought over by people who would find them in the woods or on the side of the road. Everyone knew about Dad's kind way with animals. I had a pet hawk for a while who liked to sit on my shoulder. Dad was mending his broken wing. The pantry at the top of the cellar stairs used to be used for a food pantry of canned goods and mops and brooms, but Dad put a toilet and sink in for a second bathroom for himself when the one bathroom upstairs for the 8 daughters did not seem to be enough. This was the bathroom I was in when taken completely by surprise. An oversight on my mother's part by a visit from what was referred to back then as my friend of all things. We can't blame my mother. She had so many daughters. She had thought she had prepared me for this marked event. Of course, not knowing a thing about it, I did what I felt was very appropriate at the sight of all that blood and let out a blood-curdling scream. After all, I figured I must have been dying, right? And of course, the downstairs bathroom being right off the kitchen, where my parents were serving coffee to relatives who came running with her to see what was the matter. They took one look at me sitting on the toilet and quickly turned away, snickering, back to the kitchen to finish their coffee while Mother explained the facts of life to me, the condensed version. Around this time, I think that's when the nightmares began. At first, I would have had a few every month around the same time. As time went on, though, they grew to haunt me more and more often. They were strange dreams that made no sense to me at all, but made me feel embarrassed and ashamed, so I was unable to tell anyone about them. They would be things I never could have imagined, and it felt like being trapped inside a horror movie, unable to get out. I would wake up trembling and shaking, unable to stop, sometimes for hours. As time went on, the dreams seemed to get worse. I wanted but couldn't share my dreams with anyone. They were unspeakable. I just wanted to stop having them, forget about them, and get on with my happy daydreams at least. But the thoughts began to take over those too. Sometimes, with different events in my life happening, I would have them several nights in a row, and this would make me shiver even during the day. Yet I was not cold. Then, some days, I began shivering and trembling during the day for no reason without the dreams or thoughts. After 2 years of keeping the torturous nightmares to myself, when I was just 14 years old, I finally got up the nerve to tell one of my older sisters while I was visiting overnight with her at her apartment. I had grown terribly afraid that something was very wrong with me. I was being raised a good Catholic girl who believed you could sin with thought as well as word or deed. And my thoughts, although I did not know where they came from, I knew were not very pure at all. I needed to know what was wrong, why I could think those thoughts, dream those dreams. I needed them to go away and leave me thinking and dreaming of beautiful things, fun things, and happy things again like I used to. I decided to trust my older sister to help me. The nightmares made me feel guilty and ashamed. I loved the Lord, and I felt my nightmares kept me from being worthy of His love for me. I couldn't hold it inside any longer. I had to take a chance and tell my sister as much as I dared and see what she thought of me. I am so glad I told her that night. Who knows how much longer I would have blamed myself for the terrible thoughts. And the truth did set me free once my sister opened the door of my memories, which I had closed so many years ago. She let me know that my dreams were recreations of something that happened to me when I was very young, and the thoughts were not my fault. No, I was not crazy or demon possessed. These dreams and thoughts did not just jump into my mind from out of thin air. My innocence had been violated, and I had shut the memory out, and it was indeed coming back to haunt me now and play havoc on the innocent mind of a 12 to 14-year-old that, of course, could not have imagined such things without seeing or experiencing it somewhere down the line. They were distorted memories brought back to the surface by puberty and an unfortunate memory driven deep inside from a little 7-year-old girl who was too young to deal with being taken away from us by a stranger and sexually molested. They had been covered up by years of protective denial while I lived my life and grew up and into a young woman. My sister told me I had nothing to feel ashamed about. God loved me. I felt like a weight was lifted off me, and I saw the dreams for what they truly were, not my fault. I do believe the emotional scars endured in our youth and even along our life path play an important part in shaping our personality and even our destiny. I often wonder, could what have happened that day so long ago been the first step to setting me on this path in my adult life, trying to save other needy children? A couple of years ago, my eldest sister Diane reminded me of another incident that took place when I was at the age of 15 concerning her new baby boy, Little John, who I loved so very much. I helped care for him daily just before his unexpected death at 5 months old. That may also have marked my path I would take in life and leave me with the need I seem to have to save children as a way of life. I think I felt he might not have died had I not left him that weekend to go up to New Hampshire to be with family. I left him and he died. That's what a 15-year-old girl caring for her first very small infant in her life felt like. As life might have it, I ended up becoming mother to many children, 5 biological, 7 adopted, and 1 that came and stayed forever, and many others I helped along the way. Children were and still are my joy, God's wonderful treasures gifted to us all temporarily. Seeing the happiness of children can bring smiles and laughter and a light that could light any dark path, no matter what the age, infant, 5 months, 5 years, 15 years, or 50 years. I was open to the quest to love all God's children as my life goal, and I first gave that promise of love to the husband of my youth and best friend, Roger. Then my quest to give love to everyone I could grew and grew from there. And do I regret choosing a life living for others? Especially now, after giving love to my life partner, husband Roger, who walked out on us as if our life was worthless after our 30 years of marriage together? Well, no, of course not. He may have decided to dance to the beat of a different drummer for his midlife crisis, but I still believe it was a wonderful life, even if he couldn't see that anymore. Do I sometimes wonder what if? Well, yes, I guess I do. I'm human after all. But given the choice, I'd like to believe I would do it all again. I can't imagine not having these wonderful children in my life. I don't want to give up any of the valuable, happy years and memories we had together as a family or the people in it. It was a good life of being willing to put our necks out to help others and the community. We both made to we both made to parent, decided to parent and raise each one of the children, and it was good. I wouldn't give up those years, and I was proud of our marriage and loving my children and best friend, my husband of my youth. Despite all the easy and hard times with him, even now, I thought things would be a lot different than they turned out after our 30 years. Trust has been broken. Dreams and hopes carried from childhood have been shattered, and it has been difficult to sink my teeth in new ones. The good memories still live on in my heart, and even though they are sort of shaded by the painful realities that have followed my husband's escape into his new life. Thank goodness for the wonderful and good memories that peek through the horrible rough times in our lives, without them to remind me that those goals we once shared together were once good intended and worthy ones. How could I ever have dreamed that after 30 years our wonderful but unique melting pot family would end up shattered like a broken Christmas bulb, dividing our family with many running scared, destroying our feelings of safety and security within our family, and turning everyone upside down and against each other over the pain and loss of what was we once felt was a solid cornerstone family who could get through anything together. It was never in my dream for our future that Roger would leave me alone to raise our three youngest children, his biological sons, and ignore the abandoned our adopted children. Roger said he left us so he could go have a life, as he called it, a life with self-centered wife of another man that he knew. He's running away with a woman who's supposedly just a sister to him, he said. A secretary from the company they all worked for, and she had been acting so needy and helpless, calling Roger repeatedly to help her in her house with plumbing problems such after she kicked her husband out and filed for divorce. She would use any excuse to get Roger over to her place to help. Then, in the end, when he left us for her, he told me she needed him and that I was strong and can take care of myself. It was so crazy. I was the one trying to recuperate from injuries from falling from our unfinished house and left to raise three minor-aged sons alone. I hadn't worked or built job skills for 30 years while raising his children and caring for him. She never had a child in her selfish life and couldn't now, and so she couldn't know. She didn't raise a family, so she had plenty of job skill training throughout her life. This was midlife crisis escape for Roger, very tempting. Why he couldn't have just bought a new car or something to get him through is beyond me. He recently got a motorcycle from a friend. Did that trigger something in him to be young again? He had been seen with a blonde woman riding on the back of the motorcycle this past summer. I think I remember a day he decided to ride the motorcycle to work, and I thought it was strange. I guess they both took that day off work to go for a nice ride. They were spotted in Derry, but I wasn't told about that until after he left me. It must be just wonderful for a man to jump out of the responsibility of being head of such a large family and into a life of just the two of them and a dog. How he can do this without feeling a big loss is such a surprise to me. But he certainly seems to be very happy now. Just happy ever after, while this new type of life that he may have wanted for a while now, and he has no problem ignoring his children and family at all while they are romancing his new love with no care at all that we here back home are suffering. The dumb old fool. Now there will be no swinging on our brand new farmer's porch swing with him and I watching our children play and our grandchildren romping in our beautiful front yard. The brand new shell of our house we were building is waiting to be finished. It was planned and being built for our large family, and now, because I can't do it myself, it lays waste, unfinished. Grandchildren are being born, and I was looking forward to sharing it with him. I was looking forward to having grandchildren, and now it was happening. I wanted to be called Grammy, like my children called my mother, and so when my husband married this childless harlot, I asked my adult children to not give the name Grammy to her, the other woman. I asked them to call her Nanny or something else, anything else. They all promised they would save the Grammy name for me, but then I found some of the children calling me Grammy Mandy. And so I asked why they were calling me Grammy Mandy instead of Grammy, and the children told me that my daughter-in-law told them I was Grammy Mandy and Papa's new wife is to be called Grammy Marcelina. I was very hurt by this, and I complained and said, "Tell them not to use my first name. It's disrespectful. I am simply Grammy." They are learning, but no thanks to my daughter-in-law, who sadly seems to get pleasure out of causing hurt, drama, and discord between people to feed the fire. I guess I could have talked to my son about the name. I wished for the children to call me instead of his wife. Excuse me. Many of our adult children are feeling left out by their dad, and this is causing them to have the need to believe Roger and kiss up to the wonderful new Grammy Marcelina. Some even were treating me like I was crazy and untruthful about when I telling them he was leaving me for Marcelina in the beginning. I felt I was being kicked while I was down. After all, what did I now have to offer while beaten so low physically, mentally, emotionally, and financially? I had been broken. And maybe it was also because I called everyone out on their actions and tried to expose the lies my husband and Marcelina were telling them all about him and Marcelina just being friends. And I was just saying they were not really being just friends. And they're insisting that their friendship had nothing to do with him leaving his family or being too busy to see or speak to any of us and the older children. This is the end of chapter 2. Hopefully tomorrow I can do chapter 3 or soon. I hope you're still interested in the story. Chapter 3 is titled Feeling Alone in a Crowd. If you are enjoying the story, please consider liking it and following.